Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Manny, good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening. JP, good to see you as well. Evening, brother. How you doing? Kamal, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? Evening, Miles. CMF Talk, good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening, brother Miles. Funky brother, good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and family. Susie, good to see you as well. How you doing, Susie? Evening, Miles and CMF. How was your weekend? Joe, it was good. It was resting. Also, saw some friends over the weekend. Happy Pisces, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Almost got you, Pablo. Let's go, Susie. Just retweeted and liked the show. Thank you so much for that, funky brother. And thank you so much to everybody who has already straight away liked and retweeted this live. Thank you so much to everyone from the CMF who has instantly liked and essentially smashed the retweet buttons and put a comment outside the live as well. Hashtag and whatever you think you want. Honestly, thanks so much to everyone who's done that so far. If you haven't, CMF members, take 5 seconds just to smash the like button, smash the retweet button. If you want, put a comment outside the live as well. Really does help with the algorithm. Good evening, Miles. Hope you, Addy. I did, saw some friends, was great. Hi, Miles, and how you doing, Addy? Good to see you as well. Hello, Miles. How are you doing? I'm doing great, Scott. Good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? Hello, CMF. Let's go, Scott. Good evening, Miles. How are you? I'm doing great. Good to see you as well. Kenny, how you doing? Good day, Miles. Mike, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? Hi, Miles. How's things? Artistic. Good to see you as well. Things are great. How things are with you? Good to see everyone tuning you one by one. Hi, everyone. One love. Good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? This is great. Everyone's tuning in. Perfect timing for a very impactful, essentially live show. A lot of things to go for on tonight's live that everybody should be fully aware of. Deadlines, which everybody should be fully aware of, which we're going to go for on tonight's live. Surprised you're on today, as everything else is down today. Well, I'm on Monday to Friday, except the days that sometimes I do spend with family or it's just Queen Move related. What's up, Miles? What's up, CMF? Kerry, good to see you as well. How you doing? Let's talk about G Treasury. G Treasury, yes, we're definitely going to talk about that. Definitely, Kerry, good to see you. How you doing? Now, welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards for the most recent news regarding cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, pretty much all the information you should know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. We also do live Q&As on this live as well, which means if you do have any questions, put it down in the comment section. I'm more than happy to help you out. And the disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And this is episode 390 of the CMF Live. So welcome everyone. If you're a regular, let's go CMF. Now, on tonight's live, a few things we have to cover. Mostly some deadlines we have to go through, some important information everybody should know about and essentially mark down their calendars. Before we go through the first news, and the first news we are going to cover is regarding the US government shutdown situation. And in other words, is it going to be opening up soon? Because we do want the US government to open back up. We've had our fun inside the market space. We want it to open back up. We want the SEC to be running at full speed, especially to process those ETFs. And we want that Clarity Act as soon as possible. Now, before we go through the first news, which is regarding the US government shutdown, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see what's happening there and then we'll straight into the first news. I meant the Amazon AWS was down today. Yes, the Amazon AWS situation was down today. Oh, that's what you meant. That makes more sense now. Yes, the Amazon servers, which pretty much half the world, you could say, uses it, or the majority of the world in terms of institutions used Amazon's AWS servers, was down. In fact, a lot of people thought that they might have been kicked out of Coinbase or essentially Uphold or Crypto.com or any other essential crypto exchange out there, and you weren't kicked out. It's just they were having server issues. And it does also go back to what essentially the World Economic Forum said. 2 years ago, the World Economic Forum did mention that we're going to be having internet situations somewhere in the few years' time to come. Share drive, let's go, Scott. So was a few other apps. It definitely was 100%. Good evening, Miles. CMF Free Forever. Good to see you as well. How you doing? Hey, Miles and family. Good to see you as well. Coming to us. How you doing? Do you think Ripple has a rough minimum set price for XRP by design? Let's just say 10,000. Or do you think there is no limit to its maximum price? I don't think there's a limit to its maximum price in any sort of a way, to be honest, because per transaction, it does burn. So it should go up inherently more and more and more. Obviously, in the sense of it's being used for its utility purposes. Not right now. In terms of the market space, it's just buy, sell, buy, sell. Like crypto has been treated like stocks. But if we go and we look at utility and essentially how far we're going to get into the financial sector, yes, there shouldn't be a set price because of the burning situation. Morning, Miles and CMF. Shelly, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Bullock Soppy, good to see you. How you doing? They are preparing us for the switch to be flipped. I would say so, yes. We are getting very close. I mean, if you look at this whole government shutdown situation, it's happening right around where we're about to have essentially ISO situation happening with all the banks in terms of 22nd. In the Western side, in terms of the financial sector. And then we also have the Clarity Act that's going to be happening, which is going to provide utility for the entire crypto space. A lot of things are supposed to be happening, and then we have a government shutdown. It does seem very pre-planned. Everything in this world is pretty much pre-planned. I mean, we do get sometimes those sudden surprises that come out of nowhere inside the market space, but the majority is pre-planned in this world. We are going into CBDCs because it's the only thing that will work. I agree 100%. 98% of centralized banks are in CBDCs. And when the study came out, essentially was, a year ago. And so many banks have progressed from their pilot stages or their testing or research stages. And even in countries like India, essentially, it's advanced quite a bit regarding CBDCs. Russia's CBDC Rube is advanced quite a lot as well. Europe wants to get CBDCs rolling out as soon as possible to be able to compete with the US dollars is what they're trying to aim for. They're trying to get their European stablecoin also coming out just to be able to compete with essentially the dominance of the US dollars in terms of a digital payment stablecoin. We're going to, so I agree 100%. Miles, you mentioned about the fake account on X and that some CMFs are following those accounts. So to check, yes. Good one, Shelly, because everybody should know there is people that are pretending to be me on X. So please be careful who you follow on X. If it essentially doesn't have a blue tick, essentially, and it doesn't say, crypto mouse, or essentially the @ has to always be CM founder. That's my @ and there's a blue tick next to it as well. That's me. But there is a lot of fake people pretending to be me on X. Please be careful. Do you think and also I will never message you first. So always keep that in mind as well. Share the live. Let's go. Facts. Increase the DM anyone thinking it's you. Yes, just in case if you are receiving DM messages, private messages on X or on Telegram or any other social platform, it is not me. It's people pretending to be me. Please be careful. Do you think, and if you ever have, essentially, is it me, is it not me situation happening, just message me directly. Do you think that when the US government resumes, the ETFs will be approved slowly or within a short period of time? I do think that when the US government opens up, the SEC has the staff that it needs to have to process all these ETFs, even during the whole fast track situation. It shouldn't take a long time in any sort of a way. It should be a short period of time and then to pass through. Share the live. Let's go, Scott. Hi, bro. C3, good to see you. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and CMF. It's good to see you all again. Let's go, SB. How you doing? Now, the first news to go from tonight's live is regarding the US shutdown situation. So here it is. The US shutdown enters its third week as the Senate, in terms of Democrats, plan a crypto roundtable. The US government is entering right now in its third week shutdown. The US Senate vote scheduled for essentially today evening, essentially to end the funding impasses and separate meetings that are going to be happening on Wednesday, where lawmakers and crypto executives will discuss the long-stalled crypto market structure bill. The Senate will vote essentially at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time for the 11th time in an effort to end the government shutdown. Approvals and the presidential signature would reopen the federal operations, while another failure would extend essentially this situation onwards. Despite the gridlock, Congress remains active on other fronts. For example, the Senate Democrats are expected to host a roundtable with crypto industry leaders from Coinbase, Kraken, Circle, Ripple, and others to discuss the proposed U.S. market structure bill, according to a post on X, essentially by the journalist, essentially Eleanor Terrett. The meeting, essentially led by Democratic Senator Christian Gilbert, comes after several Democratic senators introduced a counter-proposal to crypto market structure bill that critics say would kill DeFi and undermine essentially the bipartisan support the Clarity Act received in the House back in July. This is good to see that the Democratic Party is finally having some senses and coming towards the crypto sector. Now, it's not the entire Democratic Party in any sort of a way. You won't be catching Senator Elizabeth Warren or Nancy Pelosi at these events, but you would be catching the few individual intelligent Democrats trying to have a discussion with crypto CEOs, essentially from Ripple, from Coinbase, from essentially other platforms, to find out what is really essentially cryptocurrencies, what are DeFi spaces, and how can it bring innovation towards the table. So it's nice to see that happening, essentially, regarding this whole government shutdown situation, but at least there's a positive note to it. The US market structure bill, essentially in the Senate's counterpart to the House Clarity Act, which aims to create a comprehensive, essentially federal framework around essentially digital assets. The US government essentially has been shut down since October 1st, making it the third longest shutdown in US history so far, trailing essentially those of 1995 and between the essentially years of 2018 and 2019, which was the longest, which was about 35 days, if I'm not mistaken. What was shaping essentially up to be a pivotal month for the US crypto space in terms of ETFs, because let's remember the SEC did create that whole fast track, essentially ETF application, and then we suddenly had the government shutdown, which did stall quite a lot of those ETFs. The first deadline to pass was Canary's proposed essentially Litecoin ETF on October 2nd and October 7th. Now, Bloomberg's analysts, essentially Eric and James, who are very accurate on timelines in terms of what's going to be passed and what's not going to be passed in terms of ETFs, said that they should be the first ones passing through because they were coming up pretty much to their deadlines, but then we had a government shutdown. As Cointelegraph reported, as many as 16 crypto essentially ETFs are stalled in terms of for October, including funds tracking Solana, XRP, Dogecoin, Litecoin, and others are right now waiting for October to be the month for essentially this month to be passed through, hoping that the government shutdown situation comes to an end at least this week. So by next week, or essentially by the end of the month, we should have a few ETFs on the table. Now, the SEC during the first days of October, there are also several pending essentially applications for Solana and Ethereum-based ETFs that include staking components as well. That's pretty much separate. Now, issuers such as Bitwise, Fidelity, Franklin Templeton, CoinShares, Grayscale, Canary Capitals, and VanEck have all submitted amendments of their S1 filings to the SEC, updating their proposals to essentially reflect their new staking services for those particular ETFs. That does make the ETFs more attractive because you can essentially go into it as an ETF and also earn on the staking sites. Now, the government shutdown situation, it is rumored to be ending essentially this week, is essentially what the rumors being going around. Are we going to get the ending? Hope so, a fully ending, essentially no more back and forth situations, Democratic Party or the Republican Party. And we can get things moving, get the ETFs moving, the Clarity Act moving, and so on. Now, moving on essentially from the government shutdown situation and going into the Bitcoin whale situations we're having. In the past few days, I'm guessing some of you, if you were on the X spaces, you saw huge amounts of money by mysterious essentially whales placed on the market space in terms of shorts or longs. And you must have seen the articles, all the headlines essentially on X about a mysterious whale coming out and putting essentially a long of $120 million, out of $1 essentially billion, and so on. There's a lot of that going on right now. Massive whales are putting bets on which way the market's going to go, and people are following those bets, and some people are going against those bets. Now, a prominent Bitcoin whale known as the Trump Insider Whale, which was the guy who essentially made quite a lot of money 30 minutes before Trump announced the China tariff situation, has increased his short position by 200 more Bitcoins, reaching nearly $100 million during the October 2025 aimed at US-China trade situations. This move caused significant market volatility, with Bitcoin's prices dropping notably, impacting the broader crypto markets and leading to the historical levels of forced liquidations. A lot of people have been liquidated in terms of doing futures trading. The only people, as I said previously, now this is not financial advice in any sort of a way, the only people that have been winning essentially are the ones that have just been buying for spot because they're going for long term, and these are some incredibly discounted prices for some incredible projects out there inside the crypto space. Now, This whale essentially has maintained a stance categorized by the macro event essentially driven trading scenario. Recently, they escalated their positions to total short value of approximately $340 million across various platforms. The actions are influencing essentially Bitcoin and Ethereum markets significantly. Following the increase in its short position, Bitcoin price dropped from essentially 122,000 to 104,000 essentially dollars. Now Bitcoin is settling somewhere around $110,000 right now. The whale is leveraging essentially geoeconomic tensions such as the US and China diplomatic events to maximize its profitability. Realized profits are estimated at roughly $200 million. Their move continues to shake investor confidence across trading platforms. Scott Benson, the US Treasury Secretary, essentially noted ongoing talks between the two nations, in other words, the US and China, emphasizing the impact of tariffs on macro essential volatility. Historically, Trump inside the whale has capitalized on similar geopolitical events to initiate short positions. This behavior prompts concerns over market stability affecting both direct Bitcoin holders and derivative investors. Potential outcomes from these moves include essentially increased regulatory scrutiny and innovative risk management practices among traders. Also, on-chain essentially data platforms like Arkham Intelligence continue to monitor whale activities to track market repercussions in real time. So there are whales out there right now who are putting bets, massive bets, on shorting the market right now. Some people are going with their bets, essentially shorting the market alongside them, and some people are going against them. Now, moving on from the whale situations we're having inside the crypto space to Visa. But before we talk about Visa, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go straight into the Visa news. Let's see where we're at inside the comment section. We were at here. CG, what is your thoughts on buying a helium miner or mining in the UK? Good question. Because this, the reason why I said good question is because helium, when it was first introduced, which the ticker for the token is HXT, if I'm not mistaken, it was a long time ago. When helium was first introduced in the UK, there was a lot of companies that were providing helium miners where you essentially you can mine helium tokens. And some of those companies went bust and took a lot of people's money with them. So be careful which company you want to buy a helium miner for. Is it profitable? Probably not, is what I would say. If you really want to go for a test drive with one helium miner, see how it does, or do some research and see how many people, how much other people are making in terms of their helium miners. For me, it's a no. It's a big no going towards helium miners. So, and also be careful where you buy your helium miners from. There is one person that has won after a founder block him. I made a post about it today. Thank you so much, Scott, for saying that. Yes, there's a lot of people pretending to be me. Please be careful, everyone. It's a crypto space. Are ledger wallets all good and safe? Yes, up to a certain extent. I mean, nothing is, 100% guaranteed safe in a digital sense. But in my opinion, essentially, cold storage wallet is obviously 10 times safer essentially than a hot wallet or essentially keeping your money on exchanges. In terms of essentially which wallets are safe, in my opinion, Tangent and Ledger would pretty much be the top two, in my opinion, that are safe in terms of cold storage wallets. Hi, Miles. What's next for XRP? Johnny, good to see you as well. Actually, above Johnny is Lena. How has today been, Miles and CMF? Lena, good to see you as well. How you doing? Everything's been great. How's things with you, Lena? And now back to Johnny's question. Hi, Miles. What's next for XRP? Well, XRP seems to be silently creeping up and doing quite a lot of movements inside the institutional sector. So on Friday, when I didn't go live because I was a bit occupied, on Friday, essentially, Ripple made the announcement that they're raising $1 billion in terms of XRP. And before that news, it was Ripple essentially doing an acquisition of the company that essentially I tweeted about also, which was, I'll tell you now. Going back to essentially, there we go. Hidden Road, which was the previous company that Ripple made an acquisition towards, and G Treasury. I was trying to find out what was the other one, was Hidden Road. So G Treasury essentially is the recent company Ripple made an acquisition into. Hidden Road was the previous one essentially. And then Ripple essentially after G Treasury made the announcement that they're raising essentially $1 billion essentially dollars in terms of XRP. Now, the interesting part about that is, and I also made a tweet about it. Now, in one of these live shows, essentially, I'll do a much more detailed breakdown in terms of bullet points and pinpointing Ripple's exact footsteps essentially inside the financial sector from where they began until now. In one of these live shows, I'll do it towards the end of the live. We'll just go through bullet points of how far Ripple has come and what it's achieved, and what is essentially, what his next footsteps going to be. But in terms of G Treasury, essentially the recent announcement they made and the $1 billion rise. So I put out a tweet that said Ripple isn't just raising capital. It's deploying $1 billion to embed XRP into the global financial sector. And what I mean by that is Ripple made the announcement of G Treasury acquisition on essentially Friday. And then after that, they made the announcement that they're raising $1 billion in XRP. Why? Before every essentially announcement in terms of a Ripple acquisition, they've never made the announcement of, we're raising $1 billion XRP also. But they made an acquisition towards G Treasury and then made the announcement they're raising $1 billion XRP. Well, if you connect the dots, Ripple isn't just essentially in terms of raising that $1 billion to embed XRP into the global finance. G Treasury, in terms of what they process, it's $13 trillion annually. Roughly $13 trillion annually is processed through G Treasury. And their process, essentially, their connection is with 800 banks. This is all factual information that anybody could go and check out. And then Hidden Road, which was the other company Ripple made an acquisition towards, before essentially G Treasury, Hidden Road essentially processed annually roughly about $3 trillion. And that's connected to 300 institutions. So that's 160 countries, 300 institutions, 800 banks. If you put that together, excluding anything else Ripple is bringing to the table, honestly, just excluding anything else Ripple is bringing to the table in terms of their CBDCs, which is global, in terms of their licensings, which is global, in terms of their partnerships, which is global, in terms of tokenization, which is massively global, putting everything else to the side and just essentially factoring in Hidden Road and G Treasury, putting everything else to the side, just Hidden Road and G Treasury. These two together, in terms of their annual, essentially what they bring to the table and the processing power, and the 800 banks and the 300 institutions and the 160 countries, should push up XRP's price to somewhere near between $200 and $300 per XRP. Just these two together. Forget about every other partnership Ripple has and still has. Every other contract they have, every other NDA they have, every other essential acquisition they've made, Metico, Standard Chartered, the list goes on. Putting out all of that to one side, tokenization, all of that to one side. Just these two together, G Treasury and Hidden Road, which is, $16 trillion together, Hidden Road and Treasury. 800 banks is just G Treasury. 300 institutions is just essentially Hidden Road. That's pretty much essentially a valuation per XRP around $200 to $300. Per XRP, just these two together. And what's interesting is that the moment G Treasury's announcement was made, that Ripple is making an acquisition towards G Treasury, we had the next announcement come out from Ripple. They're raising $1 billion in XRP, which has never been made. Because we've heard, the announcements of Ripple makes an acquisition towards this company, that company, this partnership, this contract. But then straight after, to essentially have the announcement of Ripple's also raising $1 billion in XRP, after that partnership announcement comes out, we've never had. So that's the interesting play. That Ripple is, in fact, creepily, very quietly, on the sidelines, embedding XRP into these frameworks, which would push the price of XRP to $200 to $300 per XRP. Which is a very bold statement, as essentially Funky Brother has said, because I never put out price predictions, if everybody knows me. I always say, consider variable change. But just based on these two partnerships, the maths does add up to $200 to $300 per XRP. If you know me, I don't put out price predictions in any sort of a way at all. On all these live shows that I do, I always say essentially, consider variable change. If anybody asks me any price points, I always say consider variable change. But I am telling you right now, just G Treasury and Hidden Road together, Ripple's essentially acquisitions, Just these two together. Everything else to one side. Every other thing Ripple has to one side. The 1,000 NDAs and all the licenses globally and all the bank partnerships and, you know, their Fed account, master account they're trying to get, or their bank trust Ripple they're trying to get, putting everything to one side. Just these two, G Treasury and Hidden Road, is roughly about $200 to $300 per XRP, because that's $16 trillion annually, with 800 banks, 300 institutions, 160 countries, just these two. And the $1 billion rise straight after G Treasury's announcement is an interesting play. It does tell you that XRP is about to be embedded very silently. Now, I hope that makes a lot of people happy out there inside the CMF. I don't do price predictions. You know me, I always say consider variable change, but that one needed to be said. Greetings, Miles, the CMF. Good to see you as well. Ray, how you doing, brother? How you been? Let's see where we're at. I think I missed a few questions. Let's go back up. Let's see where we're at inside the conversation. Would you say there is... No, we were here, I think, right? Yeah, I was answering Johnny's question. Now, what are Miles and CMF family? Good to see you as well, Christopher. How you doing? Would you say there is no chance, some chance, or a different chance that the ETF approvals will be the catalyst we need to start our bull run? ETFs would be a catalyst, but what would be a bigger catalyst will definitely be the Clarity Act, because that's full utility. ETFs bring institutional money, which is fair enough. It's a lot of money. But Clarity Act brings utility, which means it's unlimited money. You get the picture. Not actual unlimited money, but then we're going into utility, which is a bigger deal than just ETFs. No one can predict the markets at the moment. There is too much manipulation. There is a lot of manipulation, ridiculous amount of manipulation. Hi, Miles. Good to see you, Michael. How you doing? How are you today? I'm doing great, Michael. Good to see you. What did I miss? Just a few news, essentially. We went from tonight's live regarding the government shutdown situation. All good. Miles, I had a look inside BlackRock's crypto wallet today, and there was numerous different cryptos, but there wasn't any XRP, which I thought was strange. Good question, Addy. Very good question. If you haven't, go and watch the interview, essentially, with BlackRock's CEO, Larry Fink. Larry Fink was asked on CNBC Business Talk or something it was, essentially regarding ETFs. He was asked about Bitcoin ETFs, and he said, yeah, we have Bitcoin ETFs, and, you know, we're very happy about them and so on. He's changed his opinions on Bitcoin and crypto. And then he was asked about Ethereum ETFs and said, yeah, we're very happy about that too. And then the host asks him, essentially, what about XRP? And he says, I can't talk about that one. Now, typically, companies, not typically, in general, no company signs an NDA for an ETF because it doesn't need to have one. If you want an ETF, you just do the filing and get an ETF. You don't need to do an NDA for an ETF. So just for him saying, I can't talk about that one, because he could have said, no. You know, when the host asks, essentially, Larry Fink and goes, are you going to be essentially introducing, you know, XRP ETFs? He could have just said, no, we're happy with Bitcoin and Ethereum. No XRP ETF. Instead, he said the words, I can't talk about that one, which refers to an NDA. If Ripple has an NDA with BlackRock, there's a reason. And it's not because of ETFs, because if they want an ETF, BlackRock could just file an ETF. So that's why it's not on the list. He genuinely could have said, no, we don't need an XRP ETF, but he didn't. Greetings, Miles and CMF. Ray, good to see you, brother. How you doing? Let's go, CMF. JP, good to see you. How you? JP, let's go, CMF. Let's go, CMF. Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? XRP to the moon. Let's go, JP. Miles, when is the Clarity Act will get approved? Well, it should have been approved, but we had a government shutdown situation. Next month, essentially, what we're looking at. Hopefully, end of this month, but it does depend on the government shutdown situation. We really need to decouple from Bitcoin. Amen. Honestly, we definitely need to decouple from Bitcoin. G Treasury is also a partnership with Swift. That's also true as well. Yes. Hello, found you again. Let's country one. Good to see how you're doing. Miles, that's a bold statement. Our XRP will reach $200 to $300. So when is it gonna be then? Funky brother, timeline I couldn't tell you, but I can tell you that based on my own maths, based on essentially those partnerships, based on the 800 banks and the 300 institutions and the $16 trillion they bring to the table annually, it's $200 to $300 per XRP. And Ripple also raising XRP straight after G Treasury announcement is a hint. And I know for you to say that is huge, as you don't usually give price predictions for XRP. Facts, I don't. Definitely the first time. Let's go on, love. Oh, we know you don't give price predictions. That's true. And whenever anyone asks me for price predictions, I always say consider variable change. But that one needs to be said, 100%. Good evening, brother Miles. What have I missed? Paul, good to see you as well. How you doing? We'll just talk about price predictions. To the next galaxy. Let's get funky, brother. Miles never gives price predictions. That is big news to whole people. Let's go crypto dawn. I have a friend who decided to leave France to go to Luxembourg. France has experienced a huge loss of qualified trail runners. This shows how complicated France is. It really is, I'll be honest. Hands on hips. If you know, you know. Let's go, love. Facts. Let's go, Scott. True JP. Yep. Please repeat your last statement on price. Oh, I missed it. I said, Paul, what I said, what you missed is, in my opinion, based on actual facts and based on maths, that G Treasury and Hidden Road, just two of Ripple's partners, excluding everything else Ripple brings to the table, just these two partners, 800 banks, 300 institutions, $16 trillion together they bring to the table, 160 countries. That's a maths of, essentially, if you work out the maths, it equals to roughly about $200 to $300 per XRP. That's just factual information. G Treasury is factual information. Hidden Road is factual information in terms of what they bring to the table. Ripple, essentially acquiring to raise $1 billion essentially worth of XRP straight after G Treasury announcement. There's a reason for that. Ripple just wouldn't do that randomly because they want to help the market price. They're doing it because it's an institutional essentially move. It's a financial move. And that does add up to $200 to $300 per XRP. Just these two together, excluding everything else Ripple brings to the table. Please, that's what essentially I said. Hello, Commander. Let's go on, my friend. Let's go. I'm an astronaut. Let's go, Scott. Hi, Miles and family. Alex, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Miles, can you explain how Ripple is an independent service? Can we call it decentralized? Yes, Ripple itself is a private company. XRP Ledger is decentralized. Miles, how can you decouple from BTC happen without hurting the markets? Miles, how can decoupling for BTC happen without the markets? The only way we can have decoupling is if we have utility. As long as we don't have utility, the market is bound to be stuck and strapped to Bitcoin. Whatever Bitcoin does, the market will do. If we get utility, which is the Clarity Act, and slowly shift into that section, then the crypto projects that do bring utility towards the table start to decouple themselves from Bitcoin, because the contracts that essentially Ripple has in terms of using XRP Ledger or XRP token itself, Bitcoin doesn't have. So that's why XRP Ledger will go towards essentially its own utility purposes. Same goes for AVAX. The contracts that AVAX brings to the table, Bitcoin doesn't have. So obviously AVAX will decouple. Same goes for Solana, same goes for HBAR, same goes for a lot of crypto projects that have utility purposes out there. So if G Treasury is partnered with Swift, technically now Ripple is a Swift partner. Yes, very silently they are. I just wanted to get to $125. My plan is in kick then. Let's go, Scott. Yeah, there's an influencer saying that XRP won't go anywhere because BlackRock doesn't hold XRP in their wallet, and the XRP cult need to wake up. He's just an anti-XRP everything and is negative about it. He's I can't say that word, but I agree. If there are people out there, which there probably is a lot of people out there, if there are people out there that are tweeting about XRP negatively daily, yet they hold XRP in their long-term crypto portfolios, then it would contradict everything they would say. And it makes them look like a hypocrite. Because typically the XRP haters are people that would come out and say XRP is a stable coin, which it went above $1, so it really isn't, and it never was. Because people like that will come out, the XRP haters inside the crypto space will come out and make tweets and say, XRP is never going to go above $2, $3 or so on. It's never going to reach these astronomical levels people say. It's never going to achieve nothing. It's a S-coin, essentially. It's a bad project. It's a Ponzi scheme, is what they call some influencers, the XRP community or XRP token itself or Ripple. Yet they hold XRP, which contradicts everything you would say. Honestly, you genuinely look like a hypocrite. I would respect, and I think I speak for everyone at this point inside the crypto space by just saying these words, not just me, but I think everybody would respect the XRP haters more if they didn't hold XRP in their wallets and hated on it. I would respect that person more. If you are somebody inside the crypto space, doesn't hold XRP at all, because you truly believe Ripple is a Ponzi scheme, XRP has no future, the XRP ledger has no future, it's never going to go anywhere, and that's why you don't hold it, even though you're a moron, I would still respect your opinion more than the guy next to you who holds XRP and tweets about it negatively daily and says it's never going anywhere, Ripple's a Ponzi scheme, XRP has no future, but still holds XRP. Because that would just contradict everything you're saying. Because the number one question would be, then why are you holding it? Just in case you're wrong, which contradicts everything you say. So honestly, I would genuinely respect somebody inside the crypto space more if they don't hold XRP and hate on it daily. I would respect you more, even though you're still a moron, but I would respect you more. But if you're holding XRP and you're hating on it daily, you seem immature, you seem like, you have a goldfish for brain cells. It's just contradicting everything you say. That's my opinion. But yeah, I agree, Shelly, 100%. We all have to make sure this live show reaches to Brad Girlinghouse. Let's go, Funky Brother. Facts for that one. We have to blow this live up. Let's go. Smash the like buttons, smash the retweet buttons, CMF members, and put comments outside the live as well. And hashtag the XRP community. We haven't heard about the 1,100 NDAs for ages. XRP had 1,100 NDAs about a year ago. There must be over 3,000 by now. Yep. All on social media, peeps. Let's go, Funky Brother. Funny thing is, though, he hasn't sold his own XRP, but he's telling everyone else to get rid of it. Let's go, Shelly. Make sure Larry Fink watches this live. Let's go, Funky Brother. Unleash XRP. Let's go. The second prediction milestone that is essentially has said first was XRP will overtake Bitcoin and Ethereum. That is true. I did say those words. Do you think that Ripple Labs will ever purchase Swift outright? They could if they wanted to, but they wouldn't. Because what they bring towards the table is far more superior than what Swift brings to the table or what Swift is planning on building. It's like Netflix buying out Blockbuster. Makes no sense. It's a bad investment for Netflix. It's a bad investment, in other words, for Ripple to be buying out Swift, because what Ripple brings towards the table is far more superior than what Swift can ever offer or was trying to build, in my opinion. Do you think, plus, what about how well it's performed percentage-wise compared to others in the past year? Facts. When XRP reached $300, Johnny, give it some time. Thompson, good to see you. How you doing? Now, Visa is what we talk about, and then we're straight to the comment section. Bags, $40 trillion opening for stable coins in global credit shifts. So Visa does another study paper on terms of what's happening inside the stablecoin sector, how much is being brought towards the table, and so on. So this is what it says. Visa has noted a potential rewriting of the global crypto rails, pointing to stablecoins as the bridge between traditional lending and programmable finance. In a new report that's come out today from Visa, it argues that blockchain-based systems can host segments of the $40 trillion credit market. The report does not forecast full migration, but it identifies stability in terms of pegged tokens as vehicles that could carry lending activity into on-chain infrastructure. Visa coming out today with a report saying that cryptocurrencies, or stablecoins in a sense, can be used and take over the market space in terms of lending and borrowing is a big deal. The document essentially frames this shift as both an opening and a challenge for banks seeking to adapt to programmable money. That farming essentially marks one of the clearest signals from a major payment firm that credit essentially issues and settlements could move beyond legacy platforms. The report finds that stablecoins have supported essentially $670 billion in loans over the past 5 years. Lending now involves one-to-one, essentially 1.1 million unique borrowers with an average loan size of $76,000. That number has reached essentially $121,000 in August, indicating growth in larger credit positions. According to a report, essentially Circle's USDC and Tether's USDC account for 98% of all stablecoin-based lending, which aligns with their combined 83% share of essentially circuiting supply. USDT has reported essentially $181 billion market cap, and USDC sits at a $76 billion market cap, contributing to the $307 billion total supply. This lending essentially data serves as the basics for Visa's view that on-chain data credit activity is no longer isolated to digital native platforms. Another element reshaping the sector is the regulatory backdrop. Total stablecoin capitalization has risen by $100 billion since January, driven essentially by US Genius Act, the law created essentially for the framework of the tokens to be issued by United States entities, contributing to the institutional participation. So, Visa essentially coming out with a study report today, suggesting that yes, technically stablecoins can go and take over the lending and borrowing sector is a massive deal. It honestly is a massive deal. Now, Goldman Sachs is what we talk about next. Moving off essentially from the report that came out from Visa on stablecoins to Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs has come out with their new projections for the CPI increase. So here it is. Let's see if Goldman Sachs gets them right when the CPI data is actually released. Goldman Sachs predicts a 0.37% increase in US headline CPI and 0.36% increase in core CPI for September 2025, driven by the raising food and energy costs. These forecasts could influence monetary policy, potentially essentially delaying Federal Reserve interest rate cuts, which may affect the cryptocurrency markets by strengthening the US dollar and impacting major token prices. Goldman Sachs anticipates a 0.37% rise in US CPI for September, and this expectation is just mainly based on food, energy, and tariffs, driving inflation. Because we have a government shutdown situation, we can't get accurate data coming in through. The forecasts are essentially attributed to the chief economist at Goldman Sachs right now. Although no statements were directly found from the C-level leaders, the forecast reflects the division established between the market insights. The projected CPI increase could impact the economic policies and markets. It is also anticipated that sticky inflation may limit the prospects of essentially Fed rate cuts, influencing the USD essentially and US Treasuries. As Goldman Sachs economist stated, we expect a 0.37% increase in headline CPI versus the plus essentially 0.3% consensus, reflecting a higher food 0.35% and energy of a higher plus 0.6% essentially in terms of prices, and the correspondence to year-over-year rate of 2.9%. The financial shift may occur with heightened uncertainties gripping essentially the crypto markets, despite no direct cryptocurrency impacts so far, because this is just Goldman Sachs' perspective. We haven't got the actual data in. Now, if this does play out, it could also be seen as priced in, which means the crypto markets shouldn't be manipulated that much. Yet there is a lot of manipulation going on right now inside the crypto sector. Now, moving on from Goldman Sachs' essentially predictions that things are not looking that great and could be better, to real-world assets. Real-world assets is, flying off the shelves right now. In terms of institutions love real-world assets, banks love it, governments love it, politicians love it. The list just goes on in terms of institutions loving it. And then we have the newest data coming out, which is this. Real-world assets market nears $35 billion. While we're having this market shakedown, $35 billion is the newest milestone real-world assets have reached. Real-world asset tokenization enables the representation on essentially trading of an off-chain essentially financial instrument, including US Treasuries, commodities, institutional funds, and private credits on the public blockchains. The appeal lies in 24/7 market access, faster settlements, and essentially with the decentralized applications enabling more efficient and global liquidity flows. Now, the numbers are in. So the tokenized real-world asset market continues its strong momentum, edging close to $35 billion, which is a massive milestone, as institutional products, treasuries, and gold-backed tokens drive on-chain adoption. And here is the recent data. So The recent data that's come out from rwa.xyz, which is the #1 website if anybody wants to give me essentially check some data out in terms of real world assets and how far we've come, the total essentially value reaching so far is $34.14 billion, marking a 10.58% rise over the past 30 days. This is during a government shutdown situation, during a market shakeout that's been happening inside the crypto sector. A 10.50% rise has been happening in terms of real world assets over the past 30 days, and signaling growing investor confidence even beyond that. So here are some bullet points. ZK Sync Era holds second place with $2.37 billion in tokenized assets, marking a 2.46% decline and representing 11.04% of total market share. Polygon follows essentially in third with $1.14 billion, down 3.74% of the past month and capturing a 5.31% of the overall market. ARB essentially posted a remarkable essentially 122.3% surge, essentially climbing to $874 million and securing a 4.08%. Avalanche essentially remains steady at $745.7 million, showing only 0.56% dip, while essentially AP2OS edged slightly higher by 0.9% at around $724.8 million. Now, Solana advanced essentially 5.04% to $695.9 million, supported by the growing tokenization activity and increased DeFi integrations. But here are the big boys, the ones that are essentially the top performers in terms of real-world assets. And the top performers of real-world assets are XRP, XLM, BNB, pretty much it. The top performers so far that are, climbing the ranks faster than anybody else is XRP, XLM, and BNB. They're the ones climbing the fastest in terms of the tokenization. Treasury-backed real-world assets remains the largest segments of market, driven by institutional demand for yield and stability. Performance-wise, here is essentially some key products to be fed out. So here is the institutional side as well. Franklin Templeton's Benji Fund advanced 16.10% over the past month, bringing its total value on chain to $849.43 million. On those short-term, essentially US government bond fund (OUSG) climbed to 8.41%. On those US dollar yield also essentially remained largely unchanged. Circle's USYC recorded an 8% increase. Superstate essentially short-term US Treasury USTB delivered a standout performance, soaring essentially 79.92%. And Fidelity's digital intermediary treasury FDIT rose 9.21%. The real-world assets market essentially structure remains steady and transparent, with issuers packing familiar yield-bearing assets into blockchain-based tokens. Custodians manage the underlying off-chain collateral, while blockchain essentially protocols facilitate both issuance and secondary market trading, forming a robust foundation for institutional scale adoption. So, in terms of tokenization, while the government shutdown situation has been going on, while no ETFs have been passing, while the crypto market was going all over the place and a lot of people were shaking out the market space, tokenization on the other side has been growing rapidly, you could say. Now, something quite interesting has happened today, which is, good news and bad news at the same time. Wyoming essentially is launching its own cryptocurrency, paving new paths for state economies. The election of Donald Trump as president of the United States brought cryptocurrencies into the spotlight for public institutions, and states began voting on their own reserve laws, which was great. American states thinking about creating crypto treasuries, giving access to pension funds towards cryptocurrencies, and so on, in terms of ETFs. All amazing. However, Wyoming is taking a step further and decided to launch its own token. You can see where this is going, a stable coin. It's basically 1-to-1 peg ratio of US dollars. The state of Wyoming has launched 100,000 friend coins, they're calling it, on each of these chains: Solana, Ethereum, ARB, Base, Optimism, Polygon, and Avalanche. The total supply has reached 700,000. setting a essentially pioneering example for other states, which I would have to disagree with. The idea that politicians are going to be creating stablecoins for their own state is just screaming money laundering, to be fairly honest. And nobody should be using that, in my own point of view. Look, the idea of American states or any city around the world, in terms of mayors or politicians or whatever, creating crypto treasuries, I agree with 100%. Giving access for the retail section to have access to their pension funds if they want to invest into the crypto market space, sure, it's their money, it's their pension, do whatever you want with it. All of that I agree with 100%, giving people access and giving people what they want. But the idea of essentially politicians creating essentially stable coins for their own state is going to be catastrophically bad. Because I know for a fact that somewhere down the line, one or more, or even 10 politicians are going to be printing US dollars out of thin air for their states, and things are going to go sideways. And then the US government has to step in and bail out that state and put the mayor in prison and then release him after a few months. While people will probably lose their homes because they were holding onto US dollars, which their mayor thought it was a good idea, which their mayor said it was a good idea, but ended up printing a lot and doesn't have a backing. So this just screams catastrophic, failure, in my opinion. But everything else that these American states are bringing to the table, or any other cities bringing to the table in terms of, giving access to all these beneficials, 100% I agree with. And the initiative to issue a local stablecoin and increase stablecoin diversity is valuable. They're calling it 4 states. Issued by the Wyoming Stable Token Commission, WSTC. These tokens were started under the Wyoming Stable Token Act. Wyoming's governor, Mark Gordon, leads the token project. This is just asking. It sounds like a disaster before it's even launched off. The testing phase essentially was announced for March 2020, was announced back then. The official token launch essentially place is around the 19th of August. The token, which is categorized at 102%, has an over-categorization mandate determined by law. This requirement substantially reduces peg risks for those over-categorized tokens. Now, some of you might be saying, or might be thinking too, why is this a disaster? Why could this even possibly be a disaster? Well, if you think about it, California, for example, the state of California is run by a man, Newsom, who is thinking about becoming president one day in the United States. Newsom received billions of dollars, which like a magic show, which was supposed to go towards making life better for citizens that live essentially in Los Angeles, live in California, and so on. And that money completely disappeared like a magic show, like it was, a Houdini show or something. And that didn't involve stable coins, politicians printing stable coins out of thin air and saying that they're backed to their own citizens. That was just a politician receiving money from the government to fix their own state, which ended up disappearing. And he isn't the only one that's done that. And that could be said for any politician around the world in terms of mayors, presidents, prime ministers, anybody. The idea of politicians sitting behind the printing machine is always a scary thought. It's already a scary thought when you have the Fed is the one essentially running the show. That's already a scary thought. But the idea of a politician sitting behind the printing machine is just catastrophic. So, to me, that's a stupid idea. And I think people that do live in that state should stay as far away as possible from that stablecoin. And if your state mayor comes out and says, we are creating our own stablecoin as well, alongside the other stablecoins, don't use your state stablecoins. Use other stablecoins. Because it's just going to be a catastrophic failure. The mayor is going to end up in prison. People are probably going to lose their homes because they have a lot of that stablecoin that has no value, and so on. I can already picture the disaster that's going to be happening. And they are saying that it is backed 102% right now. But who knows for later? Yes, sure, it's backed 102% now. Later, it won't be backed 102% when they're printing it out of thin air. Now, moving on from that news to Bolivia. Bolivia turns to blockchain for transparency. So while one state in the US is thinking about printing their own dollars in terms of political dollars, Bolivia, on the other hand, a Latin American country, has decided to use blockchain for transparency under their new leadership. So here's what's happening over there. Bolivia's incoming president, Rodrigo, plans to essentially make blockchain a central weapon in his fight against corruption, making one of essentially Latin America's most ambitious attempts to merge technology with governance reform. Rodrigo essentially has defeated George with a 54.4% of the votes and takes office essentially November 8th. Now, facing a weakened essentially economy hit by the fuel shortages and US dollar squeeze, his centrist pro-market agenda includes using blockchain and smart contracts to bring transparency to the public, essentially ensuring state contracts can't be altered or manipulated. Another part of his plan is to allow citizens to declare crypto assets essentially as a part of a new foreign exchange stabilization fund, giving the state a broader essentially reserve base while creating a framework for legal digital essentially holdings. The goal is to essentially diversify Bolivia's reserves without adopting Bitcoin as a legal tender, and a programmatic move that treats crypto as a financial tool, not an ideology. The proposal also builds on Bolivia's growing embrace essentially of digital assets, and the central bank also lifted its ban on crypto transactions, allowing regulated trading activities. Since then, Banco essentially Visa launched USDT custody. Major essentially brands like Toyota and Yamaha already began accepting stablecoins in Bolivia and for state oil. And Bolivia also signed a MOU with El Salvador, calling a crypto reliable alternative for modernizing payments. It's great to see more and more countries adopting two cryptocurrencies to the framework of blockchain, going towards transparency. It's incredible to see politicians using the words transparency and actually meaning it. And whatever project essentially they do choose, it's going to be great for that blockchain project to be the backing of that country. Now, UAE. UAE's M2 Capital invests $21 million in AVAX. If you're somebody that's holding AVAX, this is great news for Avalanche. M2 Capital Limited has invested $21 million in the Nasdaq-listed AVAX essentially one, focusing on AVAX's native token to support AVAX development essentially and digital asset adoption in the Middle East. As I said previously, AVAX is a great project in my opinion. This investment highlights increased essentially institutional interest in regulated digital assets, potentially enhancing the Avalanche ecosystem growth and liquidity. M2 Capital's $21 million investment in the Nasdaq-listed AVAX one highlights the confidence in AVAX's ecosystem. The investment supports a larger $300 million fundraising essentially, and boosting essentially the regulated digital asset adoption within the Middle Eastern region. Fund allocation focuses on AVAX token accumulation, aligning with the group's vision for increased networks of securities and liquidity. Institutional investment essentially is expected to enhance staking flows, contributing to the AVAX essentially network security and overall total value locked. Market observers also essentially note an increase in interest in following the announcements, as evidenced by the high trading volumes of AVAX shortly after the announcement was made. If you're somebody that is holding AVAX, it's great news to hear that there is more confidence being shown towards AVAX by going for the AVAX crypto treasury. That just keeps on purchasing and pushing it towards the sidelines. Now, moving on from the AVAX one announcement in the Middle East to Germany. Germany essentially recently launched the XRP bank card essentially rewards. Now they've also essentially are offering Solana credit card essentially offerings of 4% Solana rewards. So Germany, the crypto exchange essentially founded by the Winklevoss essentially brothers, launched a new Solana edition card, a credit card in the United States, offering up to 4% Solana rewards. This launch essentially broadens the Gemini's crypto offerings, enhancing Solana's ecosystem integration and potentially increasing Solana's demand through retail and institutional essentially staking incentives. Gemini, US-based cryptocurrency exchange, launched a Solana credit offering 4% Solana rewards. Gemini is founded by the Winklevoss brothers, which we've talked about in the past multiple times. This initiative aligns with their previous strategies in expanding crypto rewards and offerings. This is quite a big news on that sense for anybody that is into Solana. I mean, you know, if you are somebody that does regularly essentially do all the bills or do the house shopping, so on. These types of crypto credit cards are a great idea. If you want to go for the Gemini 4% essentially XRP reward or the 4% essentially Solana reward, up to you. But it is, these are great ideas if somebody, essentially has access to these. For example, in the United Kingdom, we don't have access to Gemini essentially credit cards in any sort of a way. We wish we did, but we don't. And if you do have access to them in your states, then take advantage of them is what my opinion would be. Not financial advice. Obviously, it is your decision at the end of the day. Now, moving on from that to the Fed. Big announcement. Everybody should be essentially focused on this because today is the 20th and tomorrow is the 21st. And big announcement. The Fed is about to be hosting a digital asset innovation conference tomorrow. So tomorrow is going to be a big announcement from the Fed. The Federal Reserve is set to host its Payments and Digital Asset Innovation Conference on October 21st, gathering financial experts, regulators, and tech leaders to discuss the future of money in the US. This is massive. The Fed discussing with CEOs and leaders of blockchain firms about the future of money for the United States. This highly anticipated event will explore how emerging digital technologies, including cryptocurrencies and blockchain, are transforming payment systems. The conference comes at a critical moment as the US grapples with rapid innovation in decentralized finance, stablecoins, central bank digital currency CBDCs, and real-time payments and infrastructures. The event aims to bring together stakeholders from both the public and the private sectors. The topics that are going to be discussed essentially in the agenda may include regulation. So here are some of the topics essentially that could be on the agenda, which we're going to get a full list of topics anyways, but these are essentially what's going to be discussed. Regulations and oversights of digital assets, the future of CBDCs and their role in monetary policies, innovations in real-time payment systems, private sector involvements in digital currency developments, ensuring financial stability and rapid tech changes. Given the recent moves by global central banks and the rising popularity of crypto assets, the conference tomorrow could provide insights into the Fed's stance. In other words, where is the Fed standing on this whole topic of crypto innovation, stablecoins, CBDCs, and could provide insights into the Fed's stance on digital finance and its roadmap for adapting essentially to the evolving financial landscape. With the crypto sector awaiting essentially career regulatory guidelines in the US, the Fed's participation in conversations around digital assets is absolutely crucial. The conference could shape how digital currencies are integrated into the broader US financial system or regulated more strictly. Market participants will be closely watching for any signals regarding potential future policies, especially as the US lags behind. Regions like the Europe, essentially, and Asia is also developing their own comprehensive digital asset frameworks as well. Hong Kong has been, following the exact same footsteps America's been leaving behind, to be fairly honest. So has South Korea. But tomorrow is going to be a very, very big day in terms of what the Fed's going to be having in terms of those discussions with the public and essentially the private sector on the future of digital payments. It's massive. This is the Fed. This isn't just the SEC or the CFTC. Also White House discussions, which all of those are also massive news, but the Fed having a discussion, that's a big deal. Now, moving on from that on what's going to be happening tomorrow to BlackRock. BlackRock has just debuted the first ever Bitcoin ETP on the London Stock Exchange as the UK eases their crypto investment rules. So since the US and the UK had those conversations when Trump came to the UK, and things have started to ease off in the UK in terms of crypto regulation, slowly, we're getting some sort of, somewhere. So global asset management giant BlackRock has introduced its iShares Bitcoin ETP on the London Stock Exchange today. The UK is essentially evolving crypto investment landscape. The launch follows the Financial Conduct Authority's FCA recent decisions to loosen restrictions on crypto investment vehicles, allowing UK investors to new regulated access to Bitcoin exposure. According to the asset manager's website, essentially today, the product enables investors to purchase fractions of Bitcoin trading at around $110,000 and above through units priced from approximately $11. The ETP mirrors Bitcoin's market movements while remaining within a regulated trading framework, giving retail investors a much more essentially safer path to enter crypto markets without holding digital assets directly. The movement also follows essentially a major regulatory shift in the UK. On October 9th, the Financial Conduct Authority lifted its 4-year ban on crypto ETP, signaling a softer stance on digital assets and investment products, which is ridiculous that it took the UK this long to release this ban on crypto ETPs, because the UK has always been known as the capital of money, pretty much. The city of London, being a province of its own, has always been known as the capital of money. Washington, DC, the capital of politics, which is also a province of its own, and the Vatican, which is the capital of religion. David, essentially the FCA's executive director of payments and digital finance, noted that since the initial restrictions, the market has matured and become better understood, paving the way for a broader investment access, is now what the FCA is saying inside the United Kingdom, which is the equivalent of the SEC in the United States. Despite the easing its position on ETPs and ETNs, the Financial Conduct Authority maintained its ban on crypto derivatives for retail investors, citing their high-risk nature. The regulator, however, confirmed it would continue monitoring market developments to reassess future approaches. BlackRock remains one of the most dominant issuers of Bitcoin, essentially linked investment products, and data from Soso Value also shows its iShares Bitcoin ETF in the United States, boosting over $85 billion in net assets, underscoring strong investor confidence in the firm's crypto essentially strategies. Meanwhile, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink believes the next major transformation in global finance will come from tokenization in terms of traditional assets such as equities, bonds, and real estate. Larry Fink said the company views tokenization as an opportunity to bring new investments into mainstream financial products through digital means. Honestly, massive news, essentially, in terms of the United Kingdom finally taking a step forward into essentially innovation when it comes to cryptocurrencies, offering ETPs, and a restriction of a 4-year ban on ETPs lifted by the FCA, and the FCA also stating the words, the crypto space has become a mature space from what it was previously. Massive. Now, Grove, essentially, is what we're going to talk about next. What we're going to go through next is the Ripple news on tonight's live. And the first one we're going to start out with is Grove. Grove essentially boosts Ripple's USD liquidity to enhance Ava's institutional lending. If you haven't heard this news, you're about to hear it now. Behind the evolving landscape of digital finance, moves are being made to fortify stablecoin liquidity. Grove, an established player in an on-chain capital allocation, is paving the way for new financial opportunities. The company seeks to heighten the liquidity of Ripple's USD and USDC stablecoin by leveraging Ava's Horizon institutional leading platform. By integrating with Ava's trusted platforms, Grove aims to establish a secure environment for tokenized assets backed borrowing, reflecting a strategy to expand accessibility and reliability in digital lending. Now, digital lending and borrowing is becoming a massive deal, as we went from tonight's live by the report that came out from Visa. Ripple's USD role is essentially in the digital finance landscape is absolutely crucial. It offers a stable alternative to volatile cryptocurrencies, which is attractive for investors seeking less risky options. By focusing on essentially Ripple's USD, Grove addresses a notable demand in the market for reliable stablecoin dealings. As borrowing against tokenized assets gains traction, the increased liquidity aims to cater to a broader audience. Ava's Horizon represents essentially a sophisticated institutional lending arm, renowned essentially for its innovative approaches. It provides a platform where security and efficiency coverage, which essentially is essential for operating on-chain lending smoothly, and Grove's integration essentially with Horizon adds a layer of dependability to its strategy. By embedding into, essentially this is what Grove had to say, embedding into Ava's trusted systems, we commit to delivering reliable financial solutions, Grove stated. Their partnership marks a streak alignment designed to foster stability and trust within the cryptocurrency arena. The move essentially is to increase stablecoin liquidity and to set and to transform the nature of tokenized assets and borrowing. With enhanced liquidity, investors and borrowers can expect more fluid and more accessibility in terms of transactions. And this fortified essentially offers a potential for expanded financial activities, tapping into the growing interest among institutions and individuals for stablecoins. I mean, this is quite a big announcement. I mean, they could have chosen USDT essentially with this announcement, but they did choose RLUSD. in terms of lending and borrowing, and essentially alongside USDC. Now, also moving on to Ripple backing $1 billion alongside SBI Holdings also for Evernorth project to build the largest XRP treasury. Before we talk about that, let's go to the comment section first. As I said previously, this is essentially live, which means if you do have any questions, go for the comment section. I'm more than happy to help you out. So let's go to the comment section. Let's see what's happening there, and I'm going straight into the next news on tonight's live. Let's see where we're at. We were at here. I don't want to miss anyone. We were at here. Yes, but why not just buy them and put them on a shelf as a trophy? Why doesn't Ripple just buy, essentially Swift and put them on a shelf as a trophy? It's not a bad idea. Absolutely Swift or a dinosaur, so outdated. Facts. ETF, $30, $50 XRP. Let's go, JP. In addition, Swift is nothing more than a bunch of economical bullies, and yeah, I agree. Extortionists. Did the banks manage to overturn the Genius Act concerning us earnings interest on stablecoins, or is it still going? They were able to up to a certain extent, but they also it's in a gray area now. And for those of you paying influencers to help with your portfolio, okay. So this is regarding when I was talking about influencers hating on XRP essentially, but still holding XRP, which makes no sense. It's never made sense to me. It's like me saying, for example, I hate, and I don't hate Porsches. I like Porsche cars, but it's like me saying, I hate Porsches. Porsches are crap cars. They're slow. They don't have good looks. They're horrible cars, but yet I own a Porsche GT3 RS. It's the same scenario when somebody says, when somebody says, I hate XRP, the crypto influencers that come out and say, I hate crypto, I hate XRP, XRP has no future, XRP essentially is a Ponzi scheme, Ripple is a Ponzi scheme company, and so on and so on. But yet they hold XRP. This is why I said I'll respect someone more if they didn't hold XRP and hated on it. I'd respect them more. They're still a moron, but I'd respect them more. But if you hold XRP, coming up daily, tweeting about it negatively, it just makes you look immature and a moron, to be frankly honest, and contradicts everything you say, which means nobody's going to ever take you seriously. Because if you don't like it, don't hold it. It's optional. And for those, so that's what Shelly's referring to now, what I'm about to say. And for those of you paying influencers to help with your portfolios or for the books or subscriptions, remember, Miles has never charged you anything ever, which is facts. Everything I provide is completely free of source, which has been for the past 2 or 3 years now. I haven't charged a single penny since the day I started on social media. All he asks is like and repost. It's not difficult. It's a great statement. It is a great statement because it's true. I have never charged a single penny, and I'm never going to charge a single penny. I've never charged a single penny. I'm never going to charge a single penny. Everything I do and provide since day one has been free and will continue to be free. But the only thing I ever asked for return is smash the like button, smash the retweet button, and put a comment outside the live. That's the only thing I've ever asked for. It's true. And there are people that are paying influencers for bad information. And yeah, it's not that difficult. Shelly is correct. It's really not that difficult. I don't ask for much, just a simple like and a simple retweet. Most definitely, yes, that is absolutely true. Facts. Let's go. And facts to what Shelly said as well. Absolutely. Miles, do you know if Couts will lend against XRP? Too many stable coins in the crypto markets. I agree 100%. Yes. Miles, do you know if Couts will lend against XRP as they deal with high net worth? True. I don't know if they do offer, essentially, if they do offer lending services against XRP. They probably would in the long run, but I don't know if they offer right now. Just by me saying those, just by me reading Shelly's statements, I could see CMF members that are watching right now, liking and retweeting. It's great to see that happening. Honestly, you know, when the moment you tune into the live, smash the like button, smash the retweet button, and put a comment outside the live. Anything you want. It's the only thing I've ever asked for in return. No money whatsoever. Just like, comment, retweet. Varies from network. If you do want to donate, that's completely up to you. But the like, comment, retweet. Not that difficult. Varies from network to network. It's true what Thompson said. Miles, when is the Ripple Swell event? If I'm not mistaken, it's going to be this month or next month. I think BlackRock and Ripple will announce their partnership. I think so too. That's why there's an NDA. I think do you think Germany would expand their XRP credit card to the UK? I think they would, 100%. I think they would, 100%. Do you think, and they should do, in my opinion, Gemini should, Gemini, if you're watching this, anybody from Gemini is watching this, please expand into the UK. I know the FCA is a nightmare to work with inside the United Kingdom. We don't have a Gary Gensler inside the UK, but we do have a moron just like him. But he is a better moron, he's moving on much more faster rates, you would have to say. But Gemini, if you're watching this, any of the brothers that are watching this or employees that are watching this, bring XRP Gemini, cashback XRP Gemini cards, credit cards to the United Kingdom. Share the live. Let's go Scott. Let's go Scott. Let's go Ray. Absolutely boss. Let's go Thompson. Mike. Let's go. BlackRock and Ripple have a partnership under an NDA waiting for that Clarity Act. I agree. The best crypto group online. Let's go Facts. Let's go Scott. Now, 4th to the 5th Swell, New York City. Thank you so much, Happy Pisces. It's 4/5 NYC. Thank you so much, Happy Pisces, for putting the deadline on the messaging, on the comment section. If anybody wants to know when it is, the Swell event, there you go. Thank you so much, Happy Pisces. Now, Ripple backs $1 billion, essentially, for Evernorth, the project to build the largest ever XRP treasury. Evernorth, a new XRP-focused company, plans to raise over $1 billion and go public on the Nasdaq through a merger with Armando Acquisitions Corp. 2. CEO Brad has confirmed support for the initiative. This shows Ripple's strong support for XRP and its goal to reach a wider place in the financial markets. While Ripple is a key supporter, the initiative goes beyond the company's direct control. It's not just Ripple who's backing this idea of this company creating an XRP treasury and going public. SBI Holdings is also doing it. The Japanese SBI Group is leading the fundraising with $200 million investment commitment. And a lot of people inside the crypto space said that SBI Holdings is no longer with Ripple or XRP, and they're with Chainlink now. No offense to Chainlink, it's a great project. But that's what people have been saying, essentially, that SBI Holdings is now with Chainlink and so on. It's really not. There's a reason why there's an SBI Ripple, but there's no SBI Chainlink. And that's not a dig at Chainlink because it's a bad project. Chainlink is a great project, but it's nowhere near XRP. While Ripple is a key supporter, SBI Holdings is also committing $200 million into essentially this investment. Other major investors include Pantora Capital, Kraken is also doing it as well, GSR, and RippleWorks, showing the wide institutional confidence in the project. Ripple's co-founder Chris Larsen is also taking part, and Ripple itself will serve as streak investor. In addition, Ripple's executives, Brad Garlinghouse, Chief Legal Officer Stuart, and CTO David Schultz will also act as advisors to Evernorth. This is to help guide the company's strategy and growth. Evernorth will also be led by essentially a former Ripple essentially executive who brings deep experience from his years working with Ripple's products and partnerships. Brills, essentially, Aish Brills said Evernorth will work as an active treasury that uses XRP, not just holds it. Other treasuries that are created for other crypto projects are just treasuries that are holding the asset. This particular treasury that's going to go public on Nasdaq and raise $1 billion in XRP is also going to be using the XRP in terms of utility. Evernorth's main goal is to use most of the fund to raise to buy XRP directly from the open market. They're going to be rising, essentially, they're going to be buying XRP from the open market. Evernorth's main, essentially, this would make it the largest institutional treasury in the world and dedicated to XRP. The company plans to use the remaining funds for corporate essential needs and transaction costs, ensuring smooth operations after the merger. As announced, the deal is expected to close in the first quarter of 2026, after which the new company will trade under the ticker symbol XRPN. The move shows essentially growing interest in XRP among institutional investors, because it's not just Ripple that's helping to fund Evernorth. Kraken is also helping to fund to buy more XRP. So is SPI Holdings, so is Pantoro Capital. These are big names. It also could improve the cryptocurrency's liquidity, stability, and long-term adoption. Both Ripple and Armada Acquisitions Corp. 2 have approved the plan, marking an important step in XRP's growth among major investors. If completed, Evernorth will be the first public company focused on buying, managing, and using XRP at a large scale. It is a big deal. The company plans to grow the XRP use through lending, liquidity programs, and decentralized finance DeFi projects. Brill said the goal is to give investors steady returns while helping XRP become more useful and expanding in the global financial sector. For Ripple, this project is a chance to strengthen its role in the XRP ecosystem and build a clearer, more stable path for long-term growth. As Evernorth prepares for its 2026 launch, many are watching to see how it shapes the future of XRP in global finance. What I like about that is it's not just essentially, as I said, going to be holding the asset XRP, but it's actually going to be using it, which no treasury does that. The Solana treasuries that have been created, they're just buying Solana and holding it. The Bitcoin treasuries that have been created, they're just buying Bitcoin and holding it. The Ethereum treasuries that have been created, they're just buying Ethereum and holding it. This one's actually going to be buying XRP and using it in terms of utility and lending it and borrowing it. They're going to be doing a lot of stuff with XRP Ledger and public company. Well, going public. Now, on that note of essentially massive news for XRP, and on the note that essentially me mentioning for the first time ever on the live what just two companies can push the price of XRP to, which is what I said at the beginning of the live. Essentially, I said just Hidden Road and G Treasury with 160 countries, 800 banks, 300 institutions will be pushing XRP's price to $200 to $300. On that note, we have reached the endings, essentially, of tonight's live. This was episode 390 of the CMF Live. If you watch this for the first time ever, if you watch this for the first time ever, this is the CMF Live show. It stands for Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to us live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards, which means the next episode will air tomorrow at 10 p.m. as usual time, UK time, London time. Episode 391 will be tomorrow. This was episode 390. Tune to this live show if you want to know more about the crypto space in terms of the news that's coming around, recent news, especially in terms of cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about regarding the world, completely transforming the digital space. Tune to this live show Monday, Friday, 10 p.m. long time onwards. And we also do Q&As. And the disclaimer, most importantly, of this live show is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So, before we do go, let's go start a comment section. And honestly, thank you so much to everybody who liked and retweeted this live and put a comment outside live as well. And thank you so much to everybody else from the CMF who always likes and retweets my other posts as well on X. Thank you so much to everybody who likes and reposts my other posts on X. Honestly, thank you so much. And also, thank you for everyone that followed and subscribed during this live show as well. If you are new and you liked and retweeted as well, thank you so much for liking and retweeting if you're new as well. And welcome to the CMF. Good night, Miles. Thanks for your live hard work to give us valuable news. What Miles asked for us was little of our time to educate ourselves in the crypto markets. Be blessed, my friend. Let's go, Carl. I heard Chris Lawson, and see you tomorrow, Carl, sometimes usual. I heard Chris Lawson is sending over 50 million XRP from his wallet to support the new project. They have North Project. Oops, you just stated that after I said. I'm so excited with all the good news. Let's go. Happy Pisces. When can the bull run start in November? Johnny, hold tight. So Ripple is creating this company. You could say yes and no, because it is from a previous person that used to work at Ripple, but disappeared off the maps, came back in essentially. Will Evernorth have a coin? No, they will not have a coin. There are really 1,393 views, shows on X, but likes are low. Smash the like button, guys. Let's go, Cali. Facts. Good night, Miles, and all the CMF. Thank you for a great live and news. Let's go, JP. See you tomorrow, but same time as usual. Thanks, Miles. Have a great night, and see you tomorrow, same time. Artistic, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. The more XRP gets used, the more gets burned. Better for us. Let's go, Mickey. Facts. See you tomorrow, but same time as usual. Thank you for keeping us posted, Miles. Truly blessed. Good night, all. Lena, let's go. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Night, Miles and CMF. Pablo, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Stormy, thank you, Miles. Let's go. Stormy, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Great live. Take care, Miles and CMF. Ray, see you tomorrow, but same time as usual. Good night, everyone. Stormy, let's go. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Great show, Miles and CMF. Let's go, Mickey. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Thanks, Miles. Great live. I really hope that people watching this live like and repost and place a comment outside the live for you. You deserve at least that for all you do for the CMF to bring the latest facts to us. Thank you so much, Shelly, for that statement and facts. You know, I do appreciate when everybody likes and retweets these live shows. It's not asking for much, just one like, one retweet. And thank you so much to everybody else that also likes and retweets my other posts as well next. Thank you, Miles, for a great live. Let's go, Michael. Good night, Miles, and I will cherish this live and I will store it like I hold my XRP. Let's go, funky brother. Thank you, Miles. Great live. See you tomorrow. Let's go, Mike. See you tomorrow at the same time as usual. Thanks, Miles. Have a good night, CMF. Let's go, Ghost Runner. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Great news, as always, Miles. Have a great night. Thank you very much. Let's go, Carlos. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. And like on YouTube, please. Facts. Also, if you watch us on YouTube, drop a like as well and drop a comment outside the live. Thanks, Miles, for another great evening. As normal, I'll see you and CMF family. See you tomorrow. Adi, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Brilliant show. Amazing prices. See you tomorrow, Joe. Let's go. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Thank you, Miles, for another great essentially show. Finally, we can have good night's sleep. Let's go, funky brother. See you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Good night, Miles and CMF. The best news. Thanks, Miles. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Freedom forever. XRP to the moon. Let's go, funky brother. See you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Which exchanges is tax-free? XRP to the moon. Let's go, funky brother. Which exchange is tax-free? No exchange is technically tax-free, to be fairly honest. Later on, tax will be applied. Fees will always be there as well. MEXC exchange is a good exchange in that sense. And in terms of fees and so on, Binance, Coinbase, MEXC. So Ripple is essentially, and C-Tree, see tomorrow sometimes as usual. C-Tree, so Ripple is essentially partnering with this new company that's being created. Yes, not another, I don't know what that is. Thoughts on Eddie Murphy coin? My thoughts on Eddie Murphy coin? Stay away. Not financial advice in any sort of a way, but if the token is called Eddie Murphy coin, it should tell you everything you need to know about it. If the token is called Giraffe token, it should tell you everything you know about it. Anything. Look, celebrity names or animal names, because there's a lot of cute meme coins named out there and all that. Just stay away from them. Honestly, stay away from them. Don't touch them with a 10-foot pole. Great news today. Let's go, CZ. See you tomorrow. Same time as usual. Can we use MEXC in the UK? Yes, you can. You can use it in the UK. Now, I'll see everybody tomorrow. Same time as usual. CZ, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. And C-Tree, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. Love you all. See you tomorrow for episode 391. Was joking, bro, about the Eddie coin. Ah, okay. No problem, C-Tree. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual for episode 391 of the CMF Live. Love you all. See you tomorrow. Have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world. CMF. See everyone tomorrow, same time as usual. 10 p.m. London time.